T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And welcome to the new and improved, but not so new and improved, NXT 2.0 After Show. As usual, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, commentator, and on the hosting team for Women's Wrestling Talk. But of course, I'm not alone. I am with the fabulous host of NCAT We Trust and a woman of many talents and an undisputed queen who just got through the first day of school with her kids. This is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Steph. I'm okay. Just excited. It was a long day trying to get back to the school routine. But I'm okay otherwise.
Yeah, I think the kids are lucky in the sense that they go back like on like in September instead of just August like we do down here. I remember telling you that the first time I saw you face to face, I was like, oh, September instead of August? That sounds refreshing. But definitely shout out to all the kids who started school back again, regardless of what month you start. You know, I'm hoping that everything will go great and all of you guys will learn everything you can and just be all you can be in all of your grades because that's important. So I wanted to start off the show by addressing something that has taken place. Of course, since our after show has been closely, related to the UK, with the exception of now, of course, since NXT UK has been, of course, taken off of the air so they can rebrand to NXT Europe next year. I wanted to at least give thoughts, prayers, and good vibes and condolences to the royal family in the loss of her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II. There are so many people and so many talented people and wrestlers, women's wrestlers, and just people from all around the world who are so talented who come from the UK. And considering WWE was just in the UK in Cardiff, Wales for Clash at the Castle, and then of course celebrating the talent of NXT UK with Worlds Collide, I just felt like it was important to say something and to just give all of the good energy and vibes during this tough time. This did just happen today. And I know that when it comes to, big people like that who've just had an impact on culture and pop culture, and then also from a governing standpoint, it can be a little bit testy depending on how people have felt about them. But either way, when you break it down, people have lost, someone really close to them. Sons have lost a mother. grandkids have lost a grandmother, and a nation has lost a monarch that's been in power for a long time. So I just want to send thoughts, prayers, and good vibes, to those who are now currently having to gather throughout a world, without her, because I know it's tough. But I just wanted to say that and give my love to the entire nation of the United Kingdom in navigating that. So yeah.
Yeah, no. I believe she reigned for 70 years.
Yeah.
I believe. The longest reigning monarch we ever. So especially when she started in a time where women were, there was women as far as their places and positions of power. Rather, it was the time she started, it was kind of having to prove that she can do and all this stuff, and so it's like she was queen all my life, or and not that I lived there, but whenever you heard about Britain or UK, it's Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, and so um yeah, it's like, oh wow, I knew she was like, she started 90, she was 96, and so she lived a long time, and hopefully she lived a life where she could be okay with how it was before she passed. um but yeah, she was definitely there a long time, and I guess whenever they decide to do the switching of, since Charles should be the next in line. But yes, also to those, because I have a few friends over from the UK who were posting about it, and so yes, also my condolences and prayers to you guys dealing with this as well. Um, but yeah, she was definitely, for what it was, definitely, like, you can say history books in that manner. So
Yeah, it's pretty iconic stuff. And it's just like, for someone who got thrust into it, at a very young age, around the age of like 25, they said, like, that's a pretty sick thing. Like, to say, like, you were a queen and you found your way and navigated and met so many people and did so many things. So, yeah, just big thoughts and big good energy and vibes and prayers to the nation of the United Kingdom. And we do love you. And in talking about talent from the UK, of course, this was the first NXT 2.0 after NXT Worlds Collide, where you had NXT 2.0 going up against the very best of NXT UK. And with that, of course, this was a fallout from all of that. So we're going to go into that right now. But Katrina, how did you feel about Worlds Collide? And also, how did you feel about this episode of NXT 2.0 after Worlds Collide?
Uh, I didn't start in the very beginning, and so I missed a little bit of some of the matches. But I was able to catch, some highlights, and it was a good pay per view. What I was able to see was good. I was a little annoyed with the triple threat NXT Women's title. I was highly annoyed because it's just not gonna do my girl the way they did my girl. I was highly upset. I was like, what is this? The
Yeah.
shenanigans here, like she can probably out wrestle most people, and so I was devastated. I'm not gonna. I was highly upset. However, outside of that, because remember my prediction for that was super biased. Me being biased was like, Meiko is who she is. Like, she's amazing, and so I expected her to just take that, and But I'm glad for right now she's still there, and so she was on this week's NXT episode, and so that was great, and she was in a great match. But yeah, it was a really good pay per view. I thought they really knocked it out of the park with this. I thought, I was a little, I didn't think, I mean, and Pretty Deadly, which I also thought was gonna, and they did, and I was like, see, those some. I was happy with that win as well. I thought, again, I love the gimmick that it works for them. And somebody mentioned Tyler Breeze, and I was like, yes, because I said this, I would love, just even if it's like a one time thing, a one off thing, just to, because he walked so they could run. Okay, the whole like extra flip, extra model-ish, pretty, all that stuff, and so I really enjoyed the pay-per-view. I just was highly upset with the women's match, but it was good, and I thought this was a really good, solid NXT episode as well, especially with seeing some of the UK people kind of there, and I'm hoping that means they'll be there permanently until Europe gets it underground. I'm hoping it's not just like a couple of weeks and then they're going to be gone. I'm going to be sad, but yeah, pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, for me, I really enjoyed Worlds Collide because I was able to watch it all. And of course, I can also brag and say that this is the first NXT event that's taken place on my birthday. Like, that was a really cool present to have. And it was amazing. I really loved, like, here's the thing though, I loved the NXT Women's Championship match between Mandy, Blair, and Meiko. And I love the match, but and Mandy was able to show that she could stand up, even though she isn't may not be as skilled technically as the other two. But at the same time, I did still love the match. And the outcome, I didn't necessarily like myself either, because I was hoping Mako was going to be the final boss and just win it all. But it's clear that Mandy Rose is trying to prove, well, not even trying to prove at this point, because she's a double champion now. It's basically proving that she is that girl and that we shouldn't, sleep on her just because she's not, these other two. So I mean, I didn't necessarily like the result either, but we got Mandy and it's okay. Like, it's okay, because if you had asked me 4 years ago, if you had told me 4 years ago that Mandy Rose was going to be a double champion in WWE, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. And look at here we are. Here we are in the today of things, and she's a double champion. And it's clear she's proud of herself because she did take a vacation and she wasn't even on this episode of NXT 2.0. But it's well deserved. And then, of course,
Yeah.
you saw that picture she posted on Instagram with her having both of the belts covering up her body. And I was just like, girl, just you're such a centerfold. I love it. Um, if only I had the confidence. Oh God, that would be great. But yeah, and I also definitely love Carmelo versus Ricochet. That was probably, I feel like that should be um a consideration for match of the year. It was so good, and I feel like they're not finished. But we're gonna get into that as we talk about this episode of NXT 2.0. So this episode started with a promo from Tyler Bate, who came out to address the NXT universe after his loss at Worlds Collide, because of course he had his match against Braun Breaker for both of the titles, and Braun Breaker wound up winning, and that match was pretty good too. So also you can tell us in the comments, which matches you liked from Worlds Collide as well, and what parts of this episode of NXT you liked too. But yeah, like, it's just Tyler Bate came out there to address everyone and talk about, how he's, still willing to stay, and how Braun Breaker earned his respect during their match together, and how he does deserve to be a double champion, and how even though it hurts him to not be a great representative of the UK in that way, he still has Braun Breaker's respect and that he'll make a fine champion. But he was interrupted by Gallus, who of course wrestled at Worlds Collide for the unified NXT Tag Team Championships against everybody and their mama. But they came out there talking mess at Tyler Bate, making it seem like, oh, well, why are you even out here addressing them? You lost your match. Nobody cares. But then Tyler Bate was like, hold on, what's really good? Because y'all lost y'all match too. It was so funny. I was just like, that's it, Tyler, read them, because they up here acting like they came here and just won everything, but in actuality they lost too. And Gallus didn't take too kindly to that, so they proceeded to jump Tyler Bate. But then guess who came out to help Tyler Bate out? Braun Breaker, our new NXT double champion. They came out and helped him. He came out and beat up on them and everything. And then they basically dapped it up in the ring and said, "You look, if you guys want to fight, I'll stand with him, and because it's time for, well, he basically said, since worlds collided on Sunday, worlds are going to unite tonight, and we are going to fight together." So they had their tag team match at the end of the night. But Katrina, what did you think about this segment?
I thought it was really good, actually. It was nice to kind of see, after the fact that they had that matchup and there was a one unified champion, that they were still able to have respect for each other. They were still able to be cordial with each other, and it wasn't any like shadiness or pettiness. And being that both of them are kind of on the face thing going on right now, I don't know if that means we're gonna have a change soon with one of them. If they're gonna try to make it be a heel situation, or they're gonna keep them both like work, together for a bit. We'll see. Because then I don't even know if they're gonna keep Tug Beat for as long as they're gonna keep them. So we'll see. But I thought it was a good open to the segment. Again, they were the ones who ended Worlds Collide, and so I guess it made sense for them to open up NXT. But I thought it was for what it was. I thought it was a good segment. I thought it was a good open. And it was kind of cool to see, especially when they were talking about that crap they were talking, and I'm like, let's not act like we forgot, because I didn't forget, like, like he was able to kind of like, I got this, and Braun helped him out. So I thought it was a good open. I thought it was nice, especially after the match ended.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. And it's really cool how you pointed it out, how full circle that was. They ended World's Class and then they started 2.0. Like, I liked it. I like that a lot. So, yeah, of course, later on, they will go on to fight each other, but then we'll talk about that. So, in the comments, we had JD who said hello. And we had Raleigh who says hi from the UK, of course, giving love to you at this time. So after that segment took place, we had a women's tag team match between Toxic Attraction, JC Jane, and my wife, Gigi Dolan, versus Nikki ASH versus and Dourdrop. And of course, Nikki ASH and Dourdrop wound up losing their tag team match against Team KC Squared at Worlds Collide due to distraction from Toxic Attraction. So this was them trying to get revenge on them. And it's funny though, because on Raw, it's like they've been sort of planting weird little seeds of dissension between Nikki and Dourdrop, but then it's like they've, sort of come together on NXT to sort of battle, for, in their tag division, which isn't a bad thing. I'm actually here for it. I like it because it shakes things up for them and doesn't just leave them stagnant on Raw. But at the same time, I'm just wondering, what type of dynamic is this giving if you're showing them fight on one show, but then you show them united on another show? I don't know. But basically, this was a really good match. You had JC and Gigi separating, of course, Nikki ASH from Dourdrop every chance they got. There was even a moment where they knocked Nikki ASH outside of the ring, and then when Dourdrop came to her aid, Gigi even kicked her in the face, and that was just pretty sick outside of the ring on the apron. I was like, girl, dang. It was just a lot of high octane action here, but then Dourdrop's power proved to be a little bit too much. Even in that scene, in that picture right there, she actually hopped onto both of them in order to break up, like in order to basically just smash them. Like, that was a really cool moment. And so basically they wound up winning the match thanks to Nikki ASH and Dourdrop's working together and also her strength. And then she also started bleeding towards the end of it as well. I'm not exactly sure how she started bleeding, but that's basically what happened there. So, Kat, what did you think about this match, and how do you feel about the growing dissension between Nikki and Dourdrop?
Well, being that their team up kind of started with Dourdrop telling Nikki to kind of get herself together, I feel like that's a good reason to be a little bit of like discord between the two of them a little bit, or a little bit of like not being on the same page, because you're kind of winning, like you teamed up, but you didn't team up on like the best of terms. You teamed up with trying to prove to your team member or your tag team partner that you're better than what she thinks you are. And so I can understand a little bit of the discord, that either Nikki's gonna, she did throw her, I believe it was mentioned that she threw her mask at some point, and so
Yeah.
it's very possible that Nick ASH will completely get rid of this superhero gimmick and maybe be more fierce or more, serious in that manner, that she can also not prove just to herself or us, but to Dourdrop that, she was Nikki Cross before, she was Nikki Cross in NXT, she was champion down there. And so I'm guessing that's where they're trying to go. So it kind of makes sense, because they did start off with like them, like she was like, well, you do more than what you're doing. And so it's a very real reason to be a little bit like we're not gonna be best buddies or anything after that. So I thought it was a good match, but they still got off the win. And so the fact that Nikki was the one who got the pin, and the fact that again she like the little things like her getting rid of the mask could very well mean we might be having a different Nikki very soon.
Yeah, and even on commentary, Vic Joseph actually made a reference to Nikki's past during the match where she actually pulled down I believe it was JC in the apron like she used to do, and then basically punched down on them as they're trapped in the apron as well. So I mean, you never know. She could go back to being Nikki Cross, or she could just be a completely different iteration. But I do think it's great though that they did win this match against Toxic Attraction, who of course are two-time NXT Women's Tag Team
Yeah.
Champions. And yeah, like I wonder what this means for Toxic Attraction, seeing as their leader has all the gold and they don't have any. Like, I hope it won't be a situation where Mandy kind of turns on them and looks down on them or something like that. But you'll just have to see, I guess. But I hope that's not how they end things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be a little weird. And also, speaking of NXT 2.0 being in Florida, I want to give a birthday shout out to Janelle from the HR, who's a friend of ours and a friend of the pod from Jobber Tears, the Jobber Tears podcast. She was actually in the audience with her with her love, Michael Bostic. Yeah, they were actually in the audience for this episode of NXT 2.0, and I actually saw them on TV, and I freaked out. I was like, "Oh my god, there they are!" Like I just recognized them, so I want to say happy birthday to her. While also saying hi to the both of them because they are vacationing there for her birthday, and I saw them, and it was just like, "Oh my god, there they go!" So it's cool. So yeah, shout out to them. But in the midst of that, backstage, Pretty Deadly, of course, who are now the double NXT Tag Team Champions, were backstage, bragging about their title win at Worlds Collide, and then Lash Legend came and congratulated them. And they were going around backstage, I guess, sort of carrying their tag teams because Lash told them that people were on social media bashing them and talking about how they were mad that they won. And Pretty Deadly didn't take too kindly to that. So we basically saw them throughout the show talking to various superstars, including Tony D'Angelo and Stax about, everything. And they were just really, I guess, irritated. And I believe they got into a fight with someone backstage as well. So yeah, Pretty Deadly for people who should be on top of the world. They seem to be very worried about what everybody else is saying about them. It's weird.
Agreed.
It is weird. Like it's very weird. You guys are fabulous. You have Lash Legend by your side. You're the double champions. Like, leave the social media alone sometimes. It's okay. Um but moving on, we had another match. This was men's action between JD McDonough and Wes Lee. Now, of course, they traded some barbs back and forth last week. So this is where this match came from. And this match was really good in the sense that they were both challenging each other and smacking each other in the beginning, running into each other, trying to tackle each other down. And of course, there were just lots of fast movement between the two. And it was just really good. Like, I loved this match. It was really great. Wes Lee was actually able to prove that he could go up against someone who is also a UK alum as well, and just show his toughness here. But ultimately, JD came out with the win and beat him with the devil inside. But you had Wesley hopping over the top rope and actually landing on his feet like a cat. Like, Wesley just continues to impress me. I just love him so much. He's great. So, but he wound up not coming out with the win, and JD McDonough won. And then he also, in the midst of that, was creeping out Vic Joseph when he landed outside. I believe Wes either threw him over the commentary desk or tossed him over or something like that. But even after that, JD was trying to, run to get back at Wesley, and then he was touching Vic Joseph, and Vic was not having it. He was like, "Oh my God, get away from me!" Like he was scared of him. And JD does give a lot of creepy horror movie vibes, so I totally get it. But Kat, what did you think about this match?
I thought it was good. I do recall last week with them saying what had to be said, and I guess because JD is kind of off Braun now after everything, and I guess Braun, I feel like they always, as soon as he has like a title match, he's on to the next person. They don't let us even let that marinate or anything when he has title matches. Like, okay, well, you lost, so next. So he lost, and so he kind of moved on, and I guess Wesley being, somebody who's like happy, kind of go lucky guy, kind of just trying to do his best and give it his all. To kind of have, him, I was kind of sad. I was like, I thought, yeah, I was going somewhere with Wes. I thought I was going to finally give him, some respect. And then here he is losing the following week. So I'm like, y'all just keep doing these shenanigans. Like, stop playing around with Wes and stop having him like he win one and then he lose like five. Like, they need to stop doing those shenanigans. I'm like so irritated by that. But it was a good match. I was just kind of, I don't know where they're going with JD and stuff. He's trying to creep people out because I'm like, I know me couldn't be me, but the fact that he's doing all of that and trying to creep people out, and then him beating Wes, I was like, oh man, it was a good match though. But I was just like, they got to stop doing my guy Wes like this, because like, come on, like he just won one, and then he's like, you know what, that was enough. Let's like put you back on the losing. It's just like, all right, like can we stop with the shenanigans? But otherwise, I did enjoy the match. I was just a little sad that Wes didn't get the win on that.
Yeah, that may be true. Like, I was sad about Wesley losing, but at the same time, it's like when you think of somebody like Wesley, he's kind of like a person that has the face of a sympathetic, like he's just a sympathetic baby face kind of guy. So, everybody, it's like we see him lose, but it's just like when you see him lose, you want to see him win later. It's like you want to see him have another chance. So I'm thinking that maybe this might not be it for them too. Maybe they might fight again, or maybe it might just be a one off and Wes might go on to the next thing, or JD might go on to the next thing. I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see. But JD McDonough did come out with a win here, but Wesley did do a good job. So after this, we had a segment from Apollo Crews, who who was holding a notebook, and he was going, outside on the gazebo on some water, which I think is becoming a recurring theme with people. It's like when they're angry or when they're mad at a person for injuring them or breaking their heart or something, they go out onto the gazebo, because Roxanne did the same thing for Cora a few weeks ago. So Apollo did the same thing, and he was talking about how Grayson Waller basically got into his head, and now he can't see, the vision clearly. I don't know. It's just like when they were showing this clip of him, trying to look into the future, it felt very That's So Raven. Like it was giving That's So Raven.
Yeah.
But then when he couldn't see, it's like I was wondering, what is it exactly that he's talking about? But he is threatening to get revenge on Grayson Waller. And so after he talked about getting revenge on Grayson Waller, they zoomed in on his right eye, and his right eye is damaged and it had blood in it. And I was like, oh my God, what? Like, I didn't know that Grayson Waller did his eye like that. I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. But I'm pretty sure Grayson Waller is going to have to, pay for that.
I think so. I do like what they're doing. Like, even if the person doesn't have a match, they kind of have these little segments. So it's like kind of keep them in your foresight, kind of keep them fresh, or at least keep your eyes on them. Like, okay, well, they still got some stuff going on too, even if they're not having, matches this week. I think that's something I've been enjoying a lot with NXT 2.0, is that even if a person doesn't wrestle every week, they're maybe involved in some kind of segment that they keep us as sort of fans, like it's fresh. And so I like that they do that. This is something I appreciate so far what 2.0 has been doing with that.
Yeah, I do like that too. So they're doing a lot of character building, and I actually do appreciate that. I like that a lot. So we did have a little bit of a segment which led into this upcoming match. We saw Meiko Satomura, who of course, was unsuccessful in defending her NXT UK title, against Mandy and Blair Davenport. And we saw her talking to Roxanne Perez backstage. And so after she finished talking to her and they bowed to each other, Mako starts to walk, and then we see Cora Jade confront her and ask her, and basically tell her like, why are you talking to Roxanne like she's lame and all this other stuff. But Mako was like, talking about how she was going to move forward even though she didn't win, the double titles. And so Cora tried to challenge her to a match so she could prove that she could, beat, her as the final boss. But Mako was like, I'm not wrestling you. I'm not interested in fighting you right now because I'm fighting Roxanne tonight. And of course, Mama Cora was jealous and she didn't like that. Because she's just trying to beat Roxanne down and make her feel, bad about herself. So that's what happened there. But this match that we got between Mako and Roxanne, Jesus, chef's kiss. Absolutely beautiful. Because you have someone like Mako who's been wrestling for such a long time and has such an amazing resume put out there with her. Like she's done everything in wrestling that there is to do for women. And then you have Roxanne Perez, who is a prodigy, who's just 20 years old, wrestling in a match against her. And they did talk about her nervousness and stuff that you could see on her face. But it's like once she got locked in the game and in that match, that nervousness went away. And we saw a different level of toughness and a different level of technical ability from Roxanne that we hadn't seen in a while. And she stepped up to the plate. Miss Roxanne did that thing. She did it. And I was so proud of her. Like, it was a couple of moments where I thought Roxanne was going to win because I'm just like, girl, come on. Like, it was cool. Like, she was jumping outside. They were
Yeah.
trading each other hold for hold, submission for submission. I was just like, this is beautiful. It was just such a beautiful match. If you have not watched this match, please go back and watch it. Please go back and watch it. Like, it was stellar. I really enjoyed it. Like these ladies went all out. But Meiko Satomura wound up coming out with the win by connecting with a big kick and then hitting the Scorpio Rising on her. So she was able to bounce back from her loss at Worlds Collide. But here's the thing though, after the match was over, her and Roxanne showed a sign of respect to each other and bowed to each other, and that was beautiful. And you can tell that really made Roxanne's, day, night, life, everything. But in the midst of that, while she was celebrating, guess who comes out to ruin the party and ruin her happiness? Cora Jade with the pipe. She ran up behind her and hit her with the pipe as she was trying to celebrate. And she continued to hit her, but then Mako was still out there. So she ran out to fight on Roxanne's behalf, and Cora Jade ran away. And I'm just like, nah, ma'am, you decided to come out there big and bad with your Vans and your shorty shorts on, trying to pretend like you big and bad or whatever. But then when Mako gets in that ring with you, you want to run away. And what's so funny is you was trying to challenge her, but you had that pipe and you still could have took her, but you still ran away. Cora is such a coward.
She is.
She's a coward. And I'm sick of it. But Kat, tell me what you thought about this match and what do you think is next for Cora and Roxanne after this point?
I was so happy. She's my girl because I was happy to see that she was still here afterwards Collide because I wasn't sure, and I've been hearing things online, and so I wasn't sure if she was gonna be here. And I'm hoping that she's actually here for some time, and it's not like she's just here because we just had the NXT Worlds Collide, and so I'm hoping it's not like she was just here as to finish just the week off. I'm hoping we can see her like next week and a week after that and a week after that. And so I was my girl, but again, I'm a big fan of Roxanne, and I think she's has like for her age, for the time she's been wrestling, she's so gifted, and I feel like even with more time, who knows what she will be able to do. And so I was hyped for this match. I thought Mako made Roxanne look even better because she's who she is, but I did like that they showed Roxanne really doing really putting it in because of what we've seen with her the last couple of weeks with Cora, and it seemed like she gets a little bit and then Cora comes and try to knock the wind out of her, out of her sales. And so I thought it was a good match. I thought, if I was Roxanne, like personally, as I would have fangirled, I don't know if I would like to try to get through a match with somebody like Meiko. I would have been like, oh my God, forgetting that I got to do my job. And so I sure she felt what I was feeling as a fan. Like I was like, yes, super hyped for this match. But it was a good match. And, as you mentioned, Cora was it's definitely cowardly. But, I guess that's what heels like. She's like the Miz kind of a heel, like that cowardly heel, like talk a lot of crap, but then when things really need to happen, he kind of like stalks off somewhere. And so she does very similar kind of tactics where she starts scenarios, but then she runs off before things can really go to a head. And so I feel like because they're still having this thing go on, there's probably going to be at least one more real major matchup between Roxanne and Cora at some point. And I'm hoping it will end with Roxanne actually winning. And so maybe they can put the feud to bed, but we will see. But again, I'm hoping we can see more of Meiko because that's my girl. I'm hoping we can see more of her on NXT 2.0. And it's not, again, just, because it was after Worlds Collide. I'm hoping it wasn't just because of that we saw her and it's like, oh, she's gonna be here more. Like, yes, show them how it's done. Somebody put a picture up that when I think one of her first matches, I believe, and it's like this picture is older than Roxanne. I'm like, exactly. Like sis has been doing this such a long time, and so all respect and credit to her.
Yeah, and I have two more points to make. Victor Perry, who is of course the famous leader of the wrestling club in New York with the kids, tweeted and said that he wants to see Meiko Satomura versus Sasha Banks and or Mercedes, and that would be the most amazing match on the planet. Like, oh my god, I would pass out and die from that entire match as a whole. I would just burst into tears. And even during this match between Meiko and Roxanne, they were chanting women's wrestling, clap, 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 clap. And they were even doing that for the triple threat match at Worlds Collide. So kudos to these girls because they've really been tearing it up. And then my second point that ties into the match between Roxanne and Meiko, it's just the fact that Meiko chose Roxanne for a reason. There's a reason why Cora wasn't chosen. Like, Cora, I mean, I feel like Cora is a good wrestler, but there's a reason why Roxanne was chosen and not you. So either you should wait in the back of the line or prove that you're worthy. Like, and lately Cora hasn't really even like fought any matches lately. She's only been on the attack, and it's just like, girl, and every time somebody wants to fight you, it's like you run away. So I mean, what is Mako supposed to do with that? Like, Mako is only here for serious competitors, and Roxanne is a serious competitor. She's proven that she is the future. You're just proving that you just want to act big and bad and dress like you go to Hot Topic all the time. But whatever. That's no shade though, because I do like Hot Topic. But at the same time, Cora, get it together. Either way, moving on, we had our next match, which was Ricochet versus Trick Williams, which was off the heels of Worlds Collide, because of course Ricochet and Carmelo Hayes gave the performance of their lives for the NXT North American title at Worlds Collide Sunday. Like, they put on a banger. That was just another match that I recommend that you guys go back and watch if you haven't, because it was so good. All the high flying action, all of the kicking, all of the punching, all of the things. Just please go back and watch it. It's definitely a match of the year candidate, in my opinion. It's great. So Trick Williams decided he wanted to fight Ricochet. So Ricochet, his name popped up under the SmackDown logo, but a part of me wonders, like, how would it be if he decided to stay at NXT? Like, I wouldn't be mad about that because he can wrestle down, but I feel like sometimes when it comes to his character, nobody truly knows exactly how to connect with him. But I feel like if he stayed in NXT a little bit, maybe he could explore that a little bit more. But either way, Trick Williams was able to show that he was able to step up to someone like Ricochet, even though he was still trying to, do all kinds of shenanigans, of course, because Carmelo was out there on commentary trying to big Trick Williams up and stuff. But even as they were fighting, Ricochet was still lighting him up outside, showing him like, look, like, if you want this action again, we can run it back if you want to, because I'm currently beating up your boy. But Trick Williams, looked pretty okay during the match. But of course, Yep, you had a couple of blows there. um, but in the midst of that, Ricochet wound up coming out with the win after hitting his famous splash on him, and then he covered him for the 1, 2, 3. So, and while he covered Trick Williams, he was looking dead at Carmelo, like he was giving the impression that he wanted to fight Carmelo again. So that's just such a beautiful move. I just love it when they take pictures of Ricochet in the air. It's just so gorgeous.
Yeah, that was a really good shot. It was a good move when he did it, but that was a real. I was like, oh, this is a great shot, like photographer. It was great.
Yes, it would be really great, but he wound up coming out with the win here, and he was looking dead at Carmelo as if to say, "Look, if you want to do this again, we can do this again. Like I'm not scared." Excuse me. But Katrina, what did you think about this match?
I thought, Trick's getting better. I feel like this was kind of a match just because Carmelo and Ricochet did do their thing at NXT Worlds Collide. They really did. And so, I felt like because Trick was doing the shenanigans then too, it's like, all right, I can beat you up, and then still say that Carmelo, it ain't over. And so I feel like that's what this was. Like, I can go get your guy, your man's, while you sit there and act like, you're better. I do think if it's very possible that we can get them again, even for the title again. Who knows? And I do agree. I like Ricochet. I think he's a fantastic wrestler, but I'm never sure what his gimmick is when like even when he had that little hero gimmick he had for a little bit where he was supposed to be like he was the hero, and I'm like, wait, what? Like I don't know if I would consider this like a hero, like I would relate to you in that way if I'm trying to, for a gimmick. And so I feel like maybe because the NXT, brand is slightly different as far as the gimmicks down there, that he might can do a little well going back there for a little bit, kind of get a little breath of fresh air, kind of like Apollo Crews did, where he kind of just like, let's breathe some new life into what I am as a character. Um, so I can see it happening. Uh, but yeah, I thought it was for what it was and for who the opponent was. It was okay. It wasn't bad. I thought Ricochet really did his thing, of course, but I do see we're gonna get another car. Like I feel like I feel like we're gonna get another matchup with the two of them, with Carmelo and Ricochet, and it might even be for a title shot again. Who knows?
Yeah, you just never know. But either way, I'm here for it. And Trick Williams is getting a little bit better. So yeah. Excuse me for 1 second while I get some water, because I'm just going through. My throat is kind of going through the struggle. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. All right, let's hold on. Let me get. All right, guys. So let's go on to the next matchup, which was, um, first of all, I guess before we get into the matchup, after this matchup with Trick and Ricochet, there was a vignette of Damon Kemp kind of explaining, why he had to do what he had to do with Diamond Mine. And then, the Creed brothers and Irene now kind of said they were gonna, make them pay for this, and Pretty Deadly was involved with that as well. And then we also had a backstage segment with Kiana James and Ariana Grace, who kind of agreed to like, team up to take on Zoe Stark and Nikita Lyons. And we kind of know that as of right now, Nikita and Zoe are tag team partners. They're kind of doing a tag team thing since Zoe did lose her title shot against Mandy Rose. And so I'm kind of interested to kind of see where we're going to get with Kiana and Ariana teaming up. I was talking about the little segment backstage with Kiana and Ariana.
Yeah, I heard that. Kiana has an assistant now. And I think it's funny how she has this assistant running around, back there with her and everything. And it's just now she's sort of recruited Ariana Grace to try to come at, Nikita and Zoe, because I guess they're still a tag team at this point. But what's so funny is it's just Ariana, listing all the things that she has in her schedule and how she needs to make room for her. So I don't know. But my question is, what exactly does Kiana James do to where she needs an assistant? Because of course we saw all of the degrees behind her name. So my question is like, what job do you actually have? Are you a scientist? Are you like a high level executive? Are you a CEO, a CFO, a chairman, a chairwoman? Like, girl, what are you? What are you doing with
I
your
don't
life?
know. I don't know.
It's
But
very intriguing. And also in terms of Damon Kemp, I did not expect for him to be the guy to tear up Diamond Mine like that.
neither did I.
I was not expecting that at all. I thought it was gonna be Roderick, but then at Worlds Collide, I figured it wasn't Roderick when he was the one that got attacked that bad, and I was just like, "Well, who's doing this?" And then for a second, I thought it was one of the Creed brothers because they've been beefing too. So I'm just like, "Who is doing this?" But then when it was Damon, I was like, "It would be you. It would be you from the outside, and you gonna get in and you gonna tear them up." That made sense to me. It made so much sense to me. I was like, dang, Damon, this is what we doing out here. Okay. And then later on backstage, we also saw Tony D'Angelo and Stax calling out Pretty Deadly for paying off Damon Kemp to help them. And then we also had, and I think this is where they kind of got into it a little bit, but then we had another scuffle between Cameron Grimes and Tony D'Angelo. And then they got into a scuffle as well after he offered him an espresso, but for some reason, everybody felt like that espresso wasn't that good. And I'm just like, God, what is it about espresso? Is that like an acquired taste for coffee? I don't know. Because I only get the same thing every time I go to Starbucks. So I don't know. I just get my mocha with 7 sugars and just leave. So I don't know, what was it about his espresso that just wasn't that good to people, but whatever. And then also backstage, we had Carmelo complaining about the fact that his next challenger is going to be fan voted because next week is going to be the 1 year anniversary of NXT 2.0. So they're allowing the fans to actually get in on the action and vote on WWE.com. And Carmelo didn't like that. So I'm just like, well, sweetheart, you were talking about how you ain't got nobody else to face. So we finna pick it. I mean, don't think that just because you cute and you are him, that means that you can just get underneath, all these other rules and stuff. Like, shut up. Like, hush. But either way, that's what happened backstage. Then our next match um was Nathan Frazier versus Axiom. This was interesting to me because the way that they challenged each other last week, it was kind of like they were both backstage reading comics, and they said, "Well, we could just challenge each other and stuff." And they kind of alluded to the fact that Axiom may not have come through NXT UK or something like that, but deep down inside, if you really know who Axiom is, you do know that he did come through NXT UK. But either way, they challenged each other to, I guess, like is it like a 2 out of 3 falls match? Well, not 2 out of 3 falls match, but it's kind of like they're gonna have a first, like a series of matches. That's what it is. I used to know the term for it, and now I can't think of it right now. But yeah, like this is not the first match they're gonna have. They're gonna face each other 2 more times. Um, this match was another stellar banger of a match. Because both of these men are very quick. They're very agile and they're very good at utilizing their athleticism on the top rope and everything and just bouncing off of each other and flipping each other. And also they were really good at submissions, as you can see with Axiom here trying to lock a hold of Nathan Frazier's wrist. And it was just, and then of course you have Nathan jumping out of the ring, for a suicide dive onto Axiom, which is reminiscent of his coach Seth Rollins, because he did graduate from Black and Brave. Shout out to them. So this match was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and this match made me excited to see them fight, 2 more times, because of course, this is a series. So I'm just like, it's a series of 3 matches. So these next 2 matches are gonna be really good. But Axiom wound up defeating Nathan Frazier by a pinfall. So I'm really excited for best of three. That's what it is. Their best of three series. That's what it's going to be. Axiom came out the victor in this first one. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
Sorry, I don't know why it just redid that. I thought it was a really good match. I mean, it wasn't weird like how they decided to kind of challenge each other. I was like, okay, that's random, but it worked. I guess it's to make them have something for them to do. And again, both of them are very quick, a bit high flying to an extent, and so I thought they did it really well, and then I like that they did that. But also, as you mentioned, the submissions, which is always I like to see when a person can be like, "Huh, you thought I could only do this type of wrestling," and surprise. And so, um, I thought it was a really good match. Again, it's nice to see that NXT 2.0 kind of switch up who we see every week, and so if we don't see somebody like this week we'll see the next week or like like in that situation. So I thought it was really good. I thought both men delivered. I'm actually kind of excited to see what we're going to get for the next two matches, since they will be three matches. I want to see, like, I don't know if it's going to be like whoever wins the most, is there something out of this, what's the goal, I guess, after this set of matches. But I am excited for the next one because this one was really good. It's really solid.
Yeah, I felt like this match reminded me a lot of the matches that we would see at the during the Cruiserweight Classic, which was like the only cruiserweight tournament that they had, but it was still a really good tournament where you saw the likes of um oh my god, PJ, is that his name? Dang, I can't remember his name. Is I'm so mad. And then you had the likes of Cedric Alexander and so many other people who participated in that tournament. And it was just so good. And I'm just like, now these two could actually stand to be cruiserweight champions if they had just kept that title, but they didn't. They combined it with the North American title. But I just love this match and I just cannot wait to see the rest of it. But moving on with the rest of the show, we got a vignette um, from this new debuting wrestler who's by the name of Sol Ruka. And he or she, I believe it was a woman, was surfing out on the water at the beach. And I'm just trying to figure out who is this going to be because they said Sol Ruka coming soon. And I'm just like, I wonder, who are you? But they like to be mysterious with that stuff. So we just gotta wait and see. But moving on to our main event, well, actually not moving on to the main event yet. We got a vignette from the super diva Quincy Elliott, who was riding around on a scooter, and he basically said that he was gonna make his debut next week, and I'm excited because he just looks so awesome every time I see him. Like he be having on like the Bratz t-shirts, he be having on like the Spice Girl t-shirts. Like it's giving like I was born in the 90s, but then I also came of age in the 2000s. Like that's what it's giving, and I love it. And I'm just like, I need Quincy Elliott to come on our screens. Like I'm ready because he's been doing his thing on NXT Level Up, but I guess now they figure he's ready now to move up to 2.0, and I'm so glad that he's gonna make a splash on the 1 year anniversary show. Like that's gonna be so cool. Um, and then also backstage, Tyler Bate thanked Braun Breaker for helping him and actually tagging with him for this match. But then also tying into this next match, of course, security has been going out, with Gallus every time they go out because, of course, they have been fighting with a lot of people over the past couple of weeks. And then Javier Bernal, who is still a fresh face on NXT 2.0, was starting mess with one of the with the same security guard who was telling him how to not talk to a woman last week. So I'm wondering, are we going to figure out the name of this security guard? Because this is our second time seeing him, buck up at this dude. Like, who is this security guard? And why does he keep bucking up with Javier? And why does Javier keep thinking he's big body Javi when really he's small? Like, I don't understand. Like, what's gonna happen here? I'm really intrigued by this, by their little back and forth. But this basically led into our next match, which was, of course, between Joe and Mark Coffey of Gallus, of course, the brothers, versus Braun Breaker and Tyler Bate. This match was pretty good. I thought that Gallus would have had a little bit the upper hand, of course, because they have more of a tag team base. But at the same time, you have Tyler Bate, who wasn't a tag team, with Trent Seven, who he just defeated in that tournament for the UK title. But yeah, it's just with Gallus, of course, they use a lot of their um, strongman offense. But then, of course, you had Tyler Bate and Braun Breaker sort of trying to outsmart them because, of course, Tyler Bate is a big, strong boy, but he's little. And then you have Braun Breaker, who's also really big and imposing and intense as well. So they were utilizing each other and their bodies and stuff in order to knock Gallus down a couple pegs. And it was just really good. Um, they even did like this double press right here into a suplex. Like that was really impressive to see. I was like, look at y'all, be strong together and lift up these really big men. Like I just loved it. I like their dynamic as a tag team. And then there was even a point where Joe Coffey got hit with a spear by Braun Breaker, but then Tyler Bate hit a rebound clothesline where he sort of pushes himself against the rope and then hits a clothesline on his opponent into the Tyler Driver 98 for the win. So Tyler and Braun Breaker wound up winning the match. But after the match was over, JD McDonough attacked Tyler Bate. So this wasn't the last we saw of him. Um, he attacked Tyler Bay after the match, but then before Braun Breaker could get to him, he retreated and ran away. And they had a little bit of a standoff here as JD McDonough watched them from the crowd. And that's basically where NXT 2.0 ended. Kat, how did you feel about this tag team match? And how did you feel about JD McDonough trying to start a mess with Tyler Bate and I guess Braun Breaker at this point?
I feel like he's still trying to be, relevant after like he lost. If he didn't lose or maybe something happened, I'm like, all right, but you clearly lost. And so, like I said, Braun's his like people he gets past as he moves on to the next person. And so he beat you and then he had to do Tyler. And so he beat him. So it's like, all right, he clearly has you're now like a person or two behind. And here you come starting again. I think if anything, Tyler B is technically the new guy in NXT 2.0. And so I'm thinking it's more of like if I can hopefully get myself worm my way back into a title match, or because it seemed like Braun is having a good time with Tyler, let me, or seem like there at least a respect between the two of them. Let me mess with them. And so that's what the vibe I got from him, especially since he ran afterwards. So it was like he really was about that, like that life at that moment. He wouldn't have ran, but he did. And so I felt like he just wanted to mess with them because they were having a good moment. And I feel like because Tyler is just cool with Braun at the moment, it was like he kind of got the shitty end of that because he was the opponent before he was. And so I'm thinking that's kind of like he was kind of just at the wrong place, wrong time kind of situation. But I feel like all that he's doing, but then you kind of hid. And so it was like, or like you ran, not hit, but ran away from everything where you should have took it. If you're going to start, and do stuff like that, be prepared for the consequences. But or otherwise, I thought the match was good. I thought it was a nice little. Sorry about that. I thought it was a nice little end to NXT 2.0, especially since they had their match off, at Worlds Collide, and then there was the respect between them in the beginning, and so I thought it was a nice end. I thought it was a good match. But who knows? Maybe it'll be a situation where we see because again, both of them are faces right now. Who knows if somebody will turn heel and then this won't be just like the heel messing with two faces. This could really well go a few ways. And so I'm interested to see where we go next with it.
Yeah, me too. Definitely interested to see where they could go. But I do have a question for you, since this has ended and then they were advertising next week's episode as the 1 year anniversary of NXT 2.0. And it seems like it's going to be a little bit of a celebration. And then there's a lot of fan interaction where, like I mentioned earlier, fans get to vote for different opponents and different stipulations for various matches and stuff. So, Katrina, since it's been a year, which blows my mind because Jesus, um, since it's been a year since NXT 2.0 had their revamp and now they're this entity that we know them as now. Um, how do you feel about NXT 2.0 now in comparison to how you felt about it a year ago when you first heard that NXT was getting rebranded?
I did, of course, I did like the Golden Black version of NXT, but I thought this version was a lot more like upbeat. And so I felt like, in especially the takeovers, we got some amazing takeovers over the years, some amazing matches. And so this is not me discrediting NXT. I was a big fan of the NXT before, but I felt like, again, you already have, everything happening, and so let's change it up a bit. And especially if you're trying to sign more people and you're trying to give people a chance to kind of get used to what the WWE version of wrestling is. And I say that with what they require, the entertainment aspects, all the stuff that they require you to do as part of their roster. If you want to see how well a person can deal with crowds, or how well they can kind of deal with something kind of thrown at them, then NXT 2.0 was the perfect place to do that. And so you have all these types of gimmicks where it's very different. You have the windy shoes, like she's like the sleepy nap type gimmick, or you have where, even though it's weird when they have people come back under new names, like we don't know who they were before. That kind of annoys me, because I'm like, all right, like we just saw them a couple of, like, why are we doing this? But outside of that, I do like that it's more like like there's some stuff happening, but it's more like upbeat, rather like more lively in regards to maybe the main roster. And then we have so many different types of characters and things happening, and that it's pretty cohesive now, that it's like I like what they've done. I'm a fan. I know a lot of people don't like it, or whatever the case, and they want it to be golden black because people don't like things to change. But I thought, from what I looked, I wasn't sure what to expect from the beginning. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't. But I like what we got out of it. I like, again, though, even with some of the people from the main roster coming back and refreshing themselves, and it's done in a way where you're not like irritated by it. Like how people were kind of mad when Charlotte came down there with the Rhea Ripley thing, and people was like, "Why is Charlotte here?" And it was a big deal, and people was upset. In this regard, there's never been any part somebody came back down there and people was upset about it. I feel like they like that people are coming back, and it's not on the way to undermine the people on NXT 2.0. And so I think they're doing a good job, and I'm liking what we got so far. And so hopefully another year be more of good stuff, and not like, oh my God, would you guys go from the year before? So, but I like it.
Yeah, I feel like when it first started a year ago, when they were talking about the revamp, a part of me, the rebrand rather, a part of me was kind of scared at first, because a lot of people online were talking about it as if, there were people in charge who were taking one person, being Triple H's, hands off of it and putting their hands on it, and basically changing what we loved so much, or grew to love so much, about NXT, in terms of the black and gold brand, because it had been black and gold for a long time, and it was offering us something different, in the sense that the in-ring work was more prioritized than necessarily the characters, even though, but there were levels of characterization that were still important, because of course you had people like Sasha Banks, who came up with the boss character, at NXT, because she was learning from the likes of Triple H and from the likes of Dusty Rhodes, and stuff like that. And then you had people like Carmella, who rose up and found her way there as well, and you had Bayley and so many other people. Um, and then there was the point where their NXT takeovers would happen on the weekend of a major pay-per-view for the main roster, and the takeovers would outdo the main roster pay-per-views. And so how do you come off of that much of a high and down to something that you don't know? And it's true, you did say it. When it comes to us wrestling fans and it comes to change, we feel like, nah, don't change it. We like it, and if it's going to change to something, we're automatically going to not like it. And that's basically kind of what happened at first. But then once, NXT 2.0 started finding its groove, and we started to see more of what it had to offer, not even just in characters, but then seeing these people who weren't just wrestlers from the independents. You also saw other athletes from other sports coming in and finding their characters and finding their groove as wrestlers. And it's like you're watching the future. You're still watching levels of the future take place. Then on top of that, you're having people from the main roster come in and helping to elevate it as well. So I was a little bit hesitant and scared at first, but I wasn't gonna be like, oh my God, this is gonna suck or something. Like, I still tried to give it a chance, because I knew I was gonna watch it anyway, because I'm me and I'm a wrestling fan. So I'm not just gonna stop, watching watching anything like that. So I knew I was going to keep watching anyway. So I just had to see. And what I have seen has been really great progress. And so it's been crazy that it's been a year, but I'm really excited to see what celebrations are going to come up with next week. As usual, NXT 2.0 airs on Tuesday nights at 8/7 Central on USA. And of course, we're not doing NXT UK anymore, and it's sad, but it's okay because one goodbye is another hello, and eras in old eras in, but new eras begin. So, Katrina, well, thank you guys for joining us, first of all, for this new NXT 2.0 after show. Katrina, thank you for joining me per usual, and just tell everybody where they can find you and what you've got going on.
You can find me on most social media platforms and in Cat We Trust. If you are on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, the E is a 3. And I'm just, doing what I'm doing now. I am a writer too, and so I did have a release Tuesday, and so I'm kind of like scrambling. It's been a while since I've had like a book type of release, and it's like we're trying to hit a certain very specific goal, so it's been a bit hectic. And so if you like books and like good happy ever afters, because I do write those, check that out. I did post some of it on my social media. And then, gearing up for this Comic-Con panel, I announced all the panelists. Officially, all the panelists are announced. I got the final confirmation for Comic-Con as well today, that the list has been updated and everything is great. And so just gearing up for that, it's really exciting. I'm still like I know it's happening, but it's like a shock type, like, oh man, I made this happen, like this actually is happening. And so it's like that, oh my god, like still like shock kind of thing that it's gonna happen. But I'm working on getting that together so it can be a really awesome panel for everybody who will be there. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I feel like the more people you kept announcing, the more excited I was. So it's going to be fantastic, and we're going to have a time, and it's going to be great. So, as usual, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And you can follow Women's Wrestling Talk on Instagram and Twitter at WWTalkPod. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com, where we have merchandise, articles, interviews, anything you want from Women's Wrestling Talk. We got it at the website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our Facebook page, share and comment whenever we're doing things, and also follow our Twitch channel because we're doing big things every day, every night. We are in here. So thank you guys for joining us on this eventful Thursday, but thank you for joining us anyway on this NXT 2.0 after show on Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye, y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.